I do want to talk about this article about Joe Biden from the Wall Street Journal last week, and then another article in the Daily Mail. Joe and Dr. Jill sort of burning all the bridges on the way out the door. But I guess when I was thinking about Joe Biden and the fact that, like, what we've been saying for 4 years now, since the 2020 primary at least, is now just an accepted part of the narrative here. I was just
2018. I had to go back. Our first big Joe Biden episode was like in January of either 2018 or 2019, where we staked out the position that this man's brain is manifestly cooked.
I remember that episode. It was shortly after Matt. I think Matt was the first one to notice Joe's similarities to Dan Quinn. We literally called it Crazy Joe after a famous Dan Quinn video.
Crazy Joe's Folly. Yes. I believe that was the name of the episode.
But yeah, so I was just like, it brought to mind how many other members of our government are currently also suffering from a diminished capacity. And there were just a couple stories recently that came to mind, including the one about Texas Representative Kay Granger, who apparently has been living in a assisted living elder care facility for the past 6 months or something. And she's on the Appropriations Committee. It says here, Kay Granger, a long-serving Republican and influential figure in Congress, is facing questions about her ability to serve effectively amid allegations that she has been living in a memory care and assisted living facility since July. And yeah, like there are reports of her wandering the hallways of her building in D.C., asking people where she lives. But it doesn't stop there. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was hospitalized and underwent hip replacement surgery after being injured in a fall during an overseas visit marking the 80th anniversary of a World War II battle. Pelosi, 84 years old, was traveling with a bipartisan congressional delegation in Luxembourg when she sustained the injury, her spokesperson said on Friday. Wouldn't this be cool if this was like a hip replacement in Luxembourg was just sort of the cover for her getting a BBL or something? Like, I got a new hip and my ass looks amazing.
A crazy detail in that is that she is attending the 80th anniversary commemoration of a World War II battle that she was alive for.
Oh my God. And also, I wonder how much her hip replacement cost her in Luxembourg. Also, okay, going on here, 74-year-old Jerry Connolly defeats 35-year-old Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to become the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. Jerry Connolly announced his esophageal cancer diagnosis in November. Now, this story got a lot of heat, but like, whenever I see AOC getting sunned by the Democratic Party, honestly, at this point, I just think good. I'd like to see more of it, please. Because honestly, like, this is what you wanted, Alexandra. This is what you wanted. To be sidelined for a 76-year-old man currently dying of cancer.
Loath as I am to think of, new articles to be brought into this world. If I were an article writing man, I would say there's something interesting about how this is probably the peak of American gerontocracy, right? Brandon, the annoying congresswoman who she's just wandering around her apartment. By the way, if that happened to me, I would front kick her down a flight of stairs. Imagine you're trying to do something and an 83-year-old congresswoman is like, are you my son? I'm blowing her away. But, height of gerontocracy, everyone is so fucking old. Everyone in Congress is like, there's a story every week where it's like, oh, they accidentally gave their colonoscopy bag to the Japanese ambassador. Their teeth fell out during non-binding resolution to honor Johnny Adair in the House.
Does anyone remember Dianne Feinstein?
She died while having sex with John Morant. She was the only one who was with it. But while all that is happening, American political discourse between like non-electeds, between people who are disgusting enough to be politically engaged in America, is exclusively about baby media. While everyone is 85 years old, all the political arguments are like, you ruined Star Wars. No, you chuddified Care Bears. I might get back into the article game and write something about that. no one's writing articles anymore.
There's another elderly member of Congress. This guy, David Scott, came up last week. It says Democratic Representative David Scott, who was being pushed in a wheelchair by a staffer outside the Capitol after votes, reamed out a photographer for taking the congressman picture. I saw and heard Scott yell, "Who gave you the right to take my picture, asshole?" and the photo of this is really funny because he's in a wheelchair screaming at a man. And it's just like he's a congressman going in, like being wheeled into Congress. I would say that is the definition of like being in a public space when you should expect to have your photograph taken. But apparently this has been known for years. I'm just reading here. More than a dozen lawmakers and aides interviewed by Politico detailed growing frustrations about some of his decisions while leading the committee of, this is the House Agriculture Committee, I believe. They have all pointed to instances of his inability to finish his thoughts or remember previous conversation. I have the utmost respect for Chairman Scott, said a Democrat on the committee, but he could be doing a better job. I don't necessarily know if it's his health or what.
He could be
but
doing
something
a
is
better
wrong.
job. His brain is trying to tell his body we're dead. It reminds me of the thing with my cousin and my grandmother that I talked about on the show, where she was like, I don't know, maybe I could get her to drink less. She's 104. What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
He could be doing a better job at dying. I agree.
It's funny. Somebody posted a side-by-side video of that guy, the guy in the wheelchair who yelled at the photographer, from like the height of his prime in like, I think like the 80s or 90s, like when he first got elected, and he had like a kind of firebrand energy to him, to like a recent speech. It's funny for all these guys up to and including Joe Biden, that as they lose like the substance, the energy, the conviction, the thing that they retain are the banal forms of political speech. And so, like, they can still recall and perfectly articulate, like, as my esteemed colleague on the Ways and Means Committee,
Which they remember perfectly what Strom Thurmond smelled like.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just funny watching all these people turn into the empty husks of just the form of a politician, a wind-up doll who can give a soundbite that means nothing.
Well, I mean, it seems like for years now, this has been basically like a violation of the social etiquette of Washington to talk publicly about the diminished capacity of people you work for or people that you deal with on an everyday basis. And I guess I'm just wondering now that the Biden disaster has been so thoroughly, I don't know. I want to say confronted, but it really hasn't been confronted. But I mean, it's all out there. Do you think this is like the experience of Joe Biden dropping out of the race or having to drop out of the race? Do you think that has like maybe cracked open the door of, I don't know, like breaching this norm of DC of just talking openly about like how senile many of the people in our government are?
Maybe. I mean, like, I read the Ken Klippenstein article about the the wandering congresswoman.
She just sold her house to a guy who ran the Phoenix program for $10.
That is very fucking
This is a very odd development.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they're friends with benefits. In a little December romance.
Hey, that bird is on fire when I talk about a phoenix. Hey-o.
But he said he talked to like a pretty insidery Beltway reporter, and he asked him like, why does it take so long for this stuff to come out if it ever does come out? And he said that most reporters know this stuff, but they're afraid of like damaging their access.
Well, I mean, like I guess like at some point it's going to become like, what benefit? Like, is there more benefit to your career breaking the news that Dianne Feinstein is maybe a little bit too old to be a senator than it would be to lose access by pointing out that she's in a wheelchair and looks like a mummy, essentially?
Well, that would get you in trouble because like that hair dye job fooled everyone. When she died, I was like, oh my God, she was 27, a fucking kid.
Seeking Derangement said like Nancy, they're talking about Nancy Pelosi in Luxembourg, and they said she fell down the stairs because her jugs were too big.
I mean, like, that is one thing I feel bad for her about. Like, I have only had tits like on and off in my life, depending on how fat I am. And it it's hell on the back. Imagine if you had tits like your entire life and you were like 100. Tough.
I just got a haircut after having nearly woman length hair, and I don't know how you gals do it. It was getting in my mouth when I ate food.